It's not just bad, it's embarrassing. This was the stupidest movie I've ever seen in my life. It would be torture to watch again. At least the theater popcorn was good. That last one was pretty funny, but those are just some of the reviews of the 2008 film Superhero Movie. It is one of those movies that were quite popular back in the mid-2000s, and while it is safe to say that neither the critics or the audience loved it, I kinda did. Now hear me out, it is not a masterpiece by any means, not even by the lower comedy standards. It has plenty of issues with the acting, writing, pacing, and there is this one scene in particular that I just... But at the same time, it is a genuinely good parody of the superhero movie genre in general, doing a lot of things right, like subverting the expectations, having fun with its cliches, and good old-fashioned visual comedy. If you were to judge it purely based on its reviews, you'd be well within your right to presume that it is probably bad, and if you ended up seeing it and hating it, I wouldn't blame you for thinking that whoever wrote and directed that movie is clearly someone who lacks the talent and the taste of making something great. Except that someone is Craig Mazin. Yeah, that Craig Mazin. So, what happened with Superhero Movie? Or better yet, what is going on with all those painfully awful movies that waste your time, ruin your mood, and make you question why would anyone make something this bad? Well, the truth is, no one sets out to make a bad movie. Not the studios, not the directors, writers, producers, actors, and especially not the hundreds and sometimes even thousands of people involved in each project. Believe it or not, it is in everyone's best interest to make a great movie. So today, I wanted to give it the benefit of the doubt and try and figure out why it goes wrong when it does. One of the easiest things to spot in a movie is bad CGI. Even when it is pretty good, we're all just naturally too good at detecting even the slightest imperfections, and it is something that we call the uncanny valley. But sometimes it is just plain bad, and when that happens, the people who are the most disappointed are the actual VFX artists who worked on it. Basically what happens is that when a movie needs visual effects, say for example for 1,000 shots, a bunch of VFX companies will compete with each other and make offers about who can do them for the cheapest and quickest. The problem is, however, that there is a major power imbalance between the studios and those smaller companies, the reason being that there's only so many major movies that need a bunch of heavy CGI work. So as soon as those companies start to push a little, the studios can just take their business to someone else and essentially quietly blacklist them. There's been quite a few stories in recent years about the insane deadlines imposed by the studios and how that leads to crazy overtime, burnout, and entire companies going out of business. They can come back with unreasonable last-minute changes and demand way more work than initially agreed upon, and other than being incredibly stressful and leaving people with nervous breakdowns, it also leads to a much worse final product. It happens a lot, but it is not always the case. Sometimes it could be a director who is just not experienced enough with visual effects and filming in a way that leaves very little chance for it to be saved in post. Or it could be budget restrictions, time crunches, technology limitations, and a number of other challenges. But no matter what, the people who are actually making those effects would be by far the happiest if they were to look good. It could be a director who is just not experienced enough with visual effects. Speaking of directors, they're of course the ones responsible for the final product. They get to make all the calls, put their name on the poster, and it is supposed to be their vision. But the truth is, they're only a piece of a really big puzzle. And unless they've established themselves to the point of a full control, the studio will interfere. And you cannot really blame the executives either. I mean, if you invested tens and hundreds of millions of dollars in something, you'd want to be involved too and make sure it's good. Because at the end of the day, their job is to make profit. It is a business, and it is what allows them to make more movies. But you can have too many chefs in the kitchen with too many opinions, not necessarily good ones, and before you know it, the whole thing is a mess. I mean, take for example what happened with Alien 3. There is a whole documentary about it, by the way, which is a crazy story, but basically, David Fincher and the studios had major creative differences, and even to this day, he still says that no one hates this movie more than him. In fact, sometimes directors are so embarrassed by their own movies, they would rather not be associated with it at all, not even with their real name, in which case they use a pseudonym like Alan Smithy, which is actually something I've made a video about in the past. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that there are not bad directors out there, but more often than not, there is more to the story, and at the same time, the studios are not always the bad guys, even if I made it sound like it. Sometimes they end up saving the movie, like what happened with Jaws, when it ended up costing twice as much as planned, filmed for over 150 days by young, unexperienced Steven Spielberg, and yet they still didn't pull the plug. The point is, there isn't just one thing that makes a movie bad, because every aspect of it is connected to another. Sometimes bad acting is actually bad writing. Sometimes what feels like bad writing is actually bad editing, which throws the story down a cliff. Or sometimes a movie that is widely considered bad is not even bad to begin with, like what happened with It's Wonderful Life, when it initially bombed at the box office and got pretty mixed reviews, but ended up becoming a holiday classic that gets played every single year, even to this day, only because it entered the public domain and people got a chance to see it. Coincidentally, also something I've made a video about. There are actually a lot of movies that we nowadays consider classics that got pretty negative reviews once they came out, and it took a little bit of time for us to catch up with them. And some movies are so bad that they go full circle to the point of being kinda good. But at the end of the day, what we can all agree on is that it's highly subjective. So while some are definitely better than others, we can at least be a little bit less cynical about it and realize that people have spent months of their lives pouring their passion into this project, and no matter how bad, we can at least find a redeemable quality about it, unless it's the Emoji Movie. I guess it's a movie.